Hi, everybody. Our crew's probably going to be pretty thin today, so we are just going to drop in and get started. Thank you for everyone who is here right before the holiday to come watch our webinar here. So thank you for joining. Um, Today we're going to be going over our Phase 6 rollouts. Joining you today is myself, Victoria Anderson, Cheryl Clapp, and Greg Johnson, who are going to be heading the questions window and our Q&A at the end if we have any questions. All of our sessions are going to be recorded and placed on our help desk as usual, as well as more help documents. So please check your email for all documented changes in the release notes. If you're not finding what you need or you're not getting release notes, please reach out to support by submitting a ticket. We're going to be muted for our presentation, so please enter your questions into the questions window or save them until the end for our Q&A. So let's go jump into the demos. We have a bunch of new features and enhancements we're going to be demoing today. We're going to be going over updates to the client and account ETL assignment loaders, adding an easy add itemization transactions to client access. We've expanded a lot of opt-in and out options as well for omnichannel communication stuff. We've also added the ability to recalculate transactions, and we've also made updates to the itemization mismatch trigger. So let's go ahead and jump into the demos. First, we're going to look at the account assignment loader and look at the fields to map, as well as what itemization data looks like once the account is placed. So this is the option to load itemization information in with your account assignment. So let's go to a sample profile here. Let's go to accounts, ETL import, and profiles. I have a sample client here. And to show you what this looks like, I did create a little very simple sample file for us to look at so we can see what it looks like here in the mapping. Okay, so here's my file I've got loaded here, and I'm just going to go ahead and scroll all the way to the end here. And we're actually going to load this and see what it looks like. So this ends once I get to note. Okay, so this is where my old file ended, and this is the new itemization information I have mapped for this particular file. So we have the itemization date and itemization date source. What's important if you're loading the itemization date source, the syntax really matters. So because it's coming from a drop-down menu, you want to make sure you have the correct syntax here. So you're going to be all caps and then use the underscores for the spaces in the word. So make sure you have that correct. And then for this one account that I'm going to be loading, particularly just has some payments assigned, but I do have all the fields in here. So itemization owing balance, itemization payments assigned, fees assigned, credits assigned, interest assigned. So if you can think back to what that itemization screen looks like, these are all the fields there. So let's go ahead and actually load this account. Okay, and then let's go look at that account here. So you can see what it looks like when you're loading a transaction. Okay, so here is the account that I just loaded. And when we go to the itemization screen here, you'll notice that I have the one transaction here, and it does sum it all up into one transaction. So that's the change we've made to the assignment loader. We've also made a change to the client profile loader, which is going to be really helpful for making updates to client profiles with itemization stuff as well. So let's go back to our loaders here and go into the client profile loader. So we've added in a new option here called overlay. And what this does is with it on, all the map fields will have their values replaced with what you're loading. So it's best practice to only map the fields you intend to update, and you don't want to have any blank fields in your file because it will insert a blank value into the field. So this is the option to basically update your client profiles. So the option is to, with these new itemization fields here, is you likely want to create a brand new update loader just for this itemization stuff for your client profiles if you're wanting to put in the itemization information in there, and have a one just for that, so you're not accidentally um, overwriting any other data in there. So you'll want to have this overlay button turned on for that. Otherwise, if you leave it off, it'll behave like it does normally. And just to highlight some of the fields here that we have that you can add to your client profile are going to be the itemization description and date source, which we're already there, but we've also added the obey compliance rules true false boolean in here as well. So if you have clients that still haven't been updated with the itemization stuff with this overlay method, it's going to be really helpful. This tool is going to be really helpful for that. Okay, so let's switch gears and go check out the enhancement we made to client access. We've added the ability to control how your clients are reporting itemization transactions. So before this rollout, there was just one option which allowed your clients to enter in individual transactions. And so now we've added a way to make that more simple and just have everything be one transaction. So before we go into client access, we need to go to the UI template where you can turn this feature on or off. So let's go to setup and user interface, and we're going to go to client access here. And if you missed the previous recordings, I think it was phase 4, you can go check out the setup stuff for the client access, itemization stuff, some of the other details there. You can find that on our help desk. So this new field here is going to be enable itemization transactions, and you can see that this is off by default. So the new default is the more simplified version. So if you have clients who you want to have them add all those itemization transactions, you'll want to make sure this is checked and turned on. So let's go look at what the new version looks like with this off. Let's go to a user here. And become user. We're going to go to a new account, and we're actually going to place the account this time so you can see what the transaction looks like when it's coming under one lump sum here. And you'll notice off the bat, this looks much simpler. Actually, I have a screenshot here that I can show you. So with the box off, the Boolean value off, the enable itemization transactions. So with that off, it'll look like this. With it on, it looks like this with the transaction add, and there's more fields, and you'll have the itemization mismatch stuff come up. So what's different about this one primarily is that these auto calculate, so you're not going to have the itemization mismatch stuff because it's going to calculate any differences that are off. So you'll see some things that behave the same and some things that are different. One of the things that's the same is the auto filling here. And let's get a charge off date in here. And you'll see that that still behaves the same, the auto filling. Okay. And you'll see some of the fields down below starting to auto calculate already. And then we'll get in our itemization balance, put in $100 there. So you'll notice that this minus credits bucket is auto filling here since I have this, since I put in my itemization date and the assigned balance is above. One thing too is that these buckets you can actually click into and add values in, and this will continue to calculate out. So in the other version, these fields are based upon the transactions you enter, and you cannot enter into them. So that is one big difference here. So let's go ahead and place this account. I'm going to enter in some basic information here so we can save the account. Okay, let's go ahead and click save. Oh, what I miss? Oops, that's important. All right, so now that we've got an account saved here, I'm going to log out really quick of this client access user and log back in. All right, let's go to this account here. Okay, and let's go check out the itemization data. And you'll see that I have all of the information into one transaction here. So that is the simplified version of the client access. Okay, so let's go check out some enhancements we've made to the opt-in and out options. I'm going to go to a new account for this. Let's see, let's go to this one here. And right off the bat, you're going to notice that any opted-in accounts here are any opt-in phone numbers or emails are going to be highlighted here in green, so they are easy for your agents to identify. So that is super awesome as far as just at a quick glance knowing what options that your agents can use. Another great opt-in that we've added to enhance kind of that quickness is going to be this quick opt-in button here that's in the notate account section. When you select this button, you're going to have all of the uh, uh, phone numbers here and email address, stuff like that, and you can select an opt-in or out for each of these phone numbers. We've also added some quick opt-ins for payment screens here. So when you go to collect payment information from your consumer, you can grab that email and text opt-in quick too. So let's go to the post-transaction screen. And you'll notice that it's for our payment types such as credit card and ACH. So you've got them already on the phone and you're getting their credit card or banking information. And you'll notice that down here in this card information section, while you're entering, you can snag and opt in for email and text message at the same time. These are awesome for if you are wanting to send receipts or payment reminders, things of that nature by email or text. The last option, opt-in and out method that we've added is going to be to our emails. So there is a specific code for this and it is in the release notes. If you want to copy and paste it into your own emails, you can find it in our release notes, that specific code, but we're going to go see what it looks like in here as well. So we're going to go to Setup, Emails, and Profiles. And I have just a little sample payment reminder email here. Okay, and so embedded in the HTML, this is actually the code right here for the opt-out. And again, you can find this opt-out and opt-in right in the release notes if you'd like to copy that. And then in our preview, you can see what it looks like. So this is what that code for the opt-out link looks like. And what's cool about this preview is that you can actually click this and it will show you what the opt-out message is when it's been successful. And I will show you where you can set this up as well. And that's going to be under your email vendor. So you're going to go to Setup, Vendors, and ELS. And there's going to be your opt-in web confirm and opt-out web confirm. So that's what your consumers will see when they click the email opt-in or out link. Okay, so we're going to switch gears completely and we're going to go back to an account here. We're just going to go to this guy that I already have open and we're going to go look at the transaction screen, the transaction history specifically. And underneath this bucket sections here, we have a recalculate button. This is only available to admins. But if you need to recalculate transactions for whatever reason, you can here. You shouldn't need to use this button regularly. ACE will recalculate when a new transaction is posted to the account or an itemization transaction is posted. So this is more for one-off situations. But we also have an action path available, which you can recalculate accounts more en masse. So let me show you what the action class name is in the action path. So let's go to Setup, Workflow, and Action Paths. And I'm going to just search for it here. Okay, so I just have a little sample one here set up so I can show you what the action class name is. And it is called Recalculate Balances. This is what you're going to want to use if you're going to be recalculating balances. And it's generic. It doesn't say itemization because it will include regular transactions as well as your itemization transactions. And the very last update we made is to the itemization mismatch trigger. Now, before we go and look at that, the before this update, the trigger was firing in real time. So as soon as that mismatch occurred, it was firing. Now the mismatch trigger is going to automatically occur in the day end process in a job. This change will not affect seeing the mismatch pill or any of that type of behavior that you're used to with the account pill or any of that. So letters, emails, that will all stay the same. This is just specifically for the trigger. But if you do want the trigger to occur sooner, we did set up a job task for that, so you can have that run. Maybe, for example, after you're running loading accounts and you want to have that itemization mismatch trigger fire, you'll want to set that up in a job. So let's go look at the job task. We're going to go to Utilities and Jobs. And let's see. And it is best practice to set up a standalone job for this because the other one is embedded in the day end job. So if you want to have this fire, you're going to want to create your job, and then you're going to use this task here called Portal Launch Itemization Mismatch Triggers. And that will go ahead and trigger any workflow that you have set up for when mismatches are found. Okay, so that is the end of our content. Before we jump into the Q&A, I do have some news to share. So we have been doing releases every 2 weeks, but we are going to be returning to our typical monthly releases after this webinar. So that is, our webinars and releases will be returning to their normal once monthly schedule. And we are going to be continuing our RegF webinars just monthly instead. So our next release is January 16th, and the following webinar will be January 20th. So mark your calendars for January 20th at 11 a.m. So same time, same place, just it'll be in a month instead of 2 weeks. All right, so before we jump in, let me talk about the expected phase 7 releases that will come out on that January 16th release date. So expected is the model form for email, improving some post-dated secure payment workflow, adding some additional details into email logs, the ability to block accounts from being credit reported if a mail return has occurred within the last 14 days, and some upgrades for account attorneys. So that is all I have. We can go ahead and open up for Q&A. We don't have a huge crowd today, so we may not get very many questions, but I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you are having trouble speaking, please make sure that you unmute yourself as well, because you are double muted. All right, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now.
Hi, I didn't so much as have a question as a clarification.
Sure.
So on the assignment loader updates that you showed us in your sample, you had mapped directly to the itemization date and then also mapped the itemization date source. just to clarify, I believe there's a simpler way. Want to make sure I don't have that wrong. If the client profile lists the date source they have selected, then we do not need to map directly to the itemization date. We just need to map to whatever date they did select, and ACE will pick that up automatically as the IZ date.
It should, yes.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, I posed a question. I said if does the card opt-in allow them to receive payment receipts? I got an answer, but I'm not sure I understood the answer.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, the idea of a receipt versus any other email, basically, if you have created some sort of email template that is going to be used as a receipt and you've put the workflow in place, right? Um, basically, what we're talking about with this opt-in is if they're not opted in, right, they're not going to receive anything via that email address. So this allows the agent to request that opt-in quickly, right, ensuring that that person's email address is opted in so that if you have that workflow in place, they'll be able to receive the email via that email address that is opted in. Does that help at all?
Yeah, a little bit. So was that created as an extra shortcut per se?
Yep.
Okay.
Precisely. Yeah, it's just so they were able to do it before from
Mhm.
the email demographic. This way they can just do it in a couple of other places a little quicker, right? Right
Okay.
from the account page and when they're entering payment data.
Okay.
And just to add a little bit more information, if you enter in a new email address in there or replace the existing email address, it's going to go ahead and make that the new priority email address on the account as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's particularly helpful with the payment data. So if you're replacing that, if you're setting it up a different email address with the payment data, right? It's important to know that if you opt that in, it's going to set it also as the first priority email address. Good questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have another question. With the compliance settings, you know, I guess that's gonna be a standard for any client that's Reg F debt. But what about if we have a state that's more restrictive? How do we set that up if it's by state restriction?
The more restrictive state restrictions are coming in the February release.
Okay, okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, do we have any last questions? Okay, well, if you think of any, please feel free to reach out to support. Again, thank you all so much for joining us during your busy holiday season. We really appreciate it. And we wish you the best holiday season. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you in a month. Bye-bye.